I haven't touched the pin. The only thing that gets me is about like 40 minutes in, I always have to pee really bad. So
it's because you just took too much beer beforehand.
Oh, I know. I got to loosen up somehow. So
it'd be cool if I could just like reach out on my iPad and hit a button that made a fart sound, but I can't.
Wah, 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 wah. Welcome back, everybody, to the R&R Cat Cast, quite possibly the fourth best Montana State podcast out there.
But number 2 in your hearts.
Well, I'm Ryan, joined by my co-host Ryan.
Plus one.
Yeah, plus one, plus our special guest tonight. We got DriscollCat back on the line. How you doing, Shane?
Hey, everyone. Doing well, thanks.
Thanks for coming back.
For sure.
Right on. So tonight, we'll recap the ISU game, go on some thoughts on that, undoubtedly some big tangents, and then we'll cover some of the upcoming Cal Poly game. The first order of business is what are we drinking tonight, fellas?
Well, I have a beer called Dark Darkness, a dark porter. If you might guess, it's a dark beer. It's pretty dark. There's some crazy Dungeons and Dragons wizardry stuff going on in the can, but I like porters, so I gave it a try, and it's from Boundary Bay, which I like quite a bit up in Bellingham, and it's pretty good. Never had it before. It's a good porter.
Did you call it the Dark Darkness?
That's what it says right on the can. Dark Darkness.
Well, I'm drinking what's called Mujo. I totally butchered that one. It's coffee milk stout from Paradise Creek in Pullman, Washington.
Hey, now you're talking.
Yeah.
Putting down the IPAs, getting a real beer. I like it.
You know what? I had a Boundary Bay IPA in my fridge waiting to go, and I was gonna put it on just for you, Thorny, but you know what? This one was calling my name a little bit more.
Okay.
So,
how about you, Shane?
Nice. It sounds like you guys are getting into the fall spirit and the winter spirit with those dark beers, man. That's just delicious. I'm drinking a Belgian White out of Belt, Montana. I think it's Harvest Moon, I think is the brewery. Delicious beer. One of my favorites.
I am jealous that you're getting to access to all those delicious Montana beers. Every time I go to Montana, I just come back with like 12 packs or 12 packs. I just stock up on Montana beer when I make it back over home.
That's awesome. I don't know if I told you guys, but I started brewing because I couldn't get Montana beers when I lived in Illinois.
Nice. How'd that go? To making a good copycat recipes?
Yeah, actually, my cold smoke, it didn't taste quite like cold smoke, but way the hell better than any other Scotch ale I could get my hands on.
Yeah, there's some pretty good ones out here, so at least I got that covered.
Nice.
All right. Yep. You guys ready to talk about that lovely game on Saturday?
Do we have to?
I think that's kind of why we're here, unfortunately. Well, I'll just give you guys a quick rundown of the stats like I always do. Pretty even stats-wise. In fact, just like the Idaho game was kind of you look at the stats and how did we win, you can almost look at these stats and say, how did we lose? First downs, they had an edge there, but we had more yards per play. We had more total yards. We actually had 20 first downs, which most we've had in a while. We've really struggled in that area. So we had some nice sustained drives. We had the turnovers, a couple fumbles there. We didn't turn the ball over, did we? I don't believe we did.
We had one turnover. Troy Anderson threw an interception.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah. Right. So, but we were still +1 in the turnover margin there. And yeah, I mean, really the penalties were kind of killed us, especially timely penalties, which I want to talk more about later because they are just becoming commonplace, way too commonplace. And that's really all I need to talk about. The stats, we made a nice little comeback there, just came up short. But let's talk about this game. What did you guys think of the game? I want to kind of start. How do you think we looked coming right out of the gate? Matt Miller had what looked like a scripted drive to start off with. Pretty much almost looked like he threw the kitchen sink out there. What did you guys think of that?
Go ahead, Shane.
Well, I was really impressed. I mean, the guy had, 5 days to prepare? An extra short period for actual scouting and to put together the game plan. So, I mean, and we haven't really had sustained drives. We had 4 sustained drives over 10 plays and 3 over 14 or more. And that's just, we just been basically just relying on just sheer athleticism and brute force from Troy Anderson. And then we come out and we look like a completely different offense. So I thought, as far as Matt Miller on, his first game, 27 years old, 4 or 5 days of preparation, I thought he did a great job.
Yeah. And I texted you, Ryan, right away. Soon as after we had that first series, which was either, I can't remember. Shane, you might know, was it 12 or 14 plays? Whatever.
I want to say it was 14, but regardless.
14.
Yeah, my bold prediction last week was we would sustain a drive.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that's taken care of, 6 minutes in. So I was really happy. Like you, Shane, I think we looked completely different on offense. I like that we mixed in Connor Sullivan. He had like 5 or 6 catches during that day. That was a big thing I was hoping for this week. And so
you had texted me that you were hoping he would get 6? I think you said 6 catches, maybe.
Yeah, 6 or 7. And
yeah,
I think
you were right there.
That.
Yeah,
and if we hadn't, thrown that interception, he would have had right on that. So I think in getting him into the mix, and it was nice to see even like Curtis Amos run that skinny post there, and that ball just careening off his fingers that would have put us up 14-0. But I mean, just to get the passing game put in there. And then I remember one of the first texts you sent me was that Tucker Yates lining up in the fullback position? And I was having a hard time viewing the game because I had to watch it on my phone, and it was just going in and out. So I couldn't really ever get a full, I couldn't get a steady feed. And so I went between the Big Sky Watch app and then listening to Jay on the TuneIn app. So I wasn't able to see a lot of the game. I would listen to most of the game, but I wasn't able to watch most of the game, I should say.
Well, I mean, just to me, Troy Anderson came out looking good, and that first drive was really good. Like you said, we hit Sullivan a couple times. He ended up with 4 catches, and I want to say at least 2 of them were on that first drive. I mean, it looked good. Like you said, 6 minutes, 14 plays. Might be the longest drive we've had all year. I don't have any stats to back that up, but certainly the longest we've had in a couple games. Just go right down and score a touchdown. The defense does their part, and then we come back down and, hey, we're doing it again. Exact same kind of thing, rolling right down, and unfortunately it stalls out, like you said. This is the story of our season, missed opportunities. Curtis Amos can't haul in. That was a really nice ball from Anderson. It was a nice touch. It came in exactly where you want it to come in. That was just a play that Amos has to make. But just like typical Bobcat fashion, not only do we miss the play, but we can't even convert on the field goal. And that's when you just like, is it going to be our day? Like, that's just the kind of stuff that I'm tired of seeing happen. So here we are, having an opportunity to be 14-0. At the very worst, you're thinking, all right, 10-0, and come away with no points.
Yeah, it's super frustrating. And on so many levels, because even before Curtis had that drop, I do believe we were, I might be wrong, but we were first and goal or somewhere in there. And then we had a couple procedure penalties that pulled us away from that. And it seemed like that was kind of the tail tape of the day for us, is we would get like this first and goal, we'd get a big play, and then we would have a holding call. We'd have a false start. We would have this and that. And then we get into these ridiculous long situations. And that's how we ended up our game. That's at the very end, we were in a 4th and 23, and we hit a 21-yard pass. We should not be in a 4th and 23 when we were first in like 15 or something, or like we were on the 15 or 16 when we were down there with the Fonse run. So it's just ridiculous how many times we go out of our way to shoot ourselves in the foot. And we missed two field goals of 41 yards and 46 yards in a dome where there's no wind. I mean, the first one goes right off the left the post and, careens off to the side, but I didn't get to see the next one. And I heard it was wide left, but that's just for a guy who's been nails, for Tristan Bailey, who's just been, stone cold this year. That's to miss 2 of them, and I know you, Thorny, kept saying back at the end too, when we got to that fourth quarter, we were 4th and 2 from the goal line there. Do you think we should have gone for it there?
Yeah, no, well, we can talk about that now, but I just think with the limited opportunities we have and how close we were, I mean, yeah, you got to get a field goal and a touchdown. I didn't know if we're going to get closer. I think this has got to be the touchdown here. I think we needed to go for the touchdown right there. But the smart play is to kick a field goal, but we had been so aggressive all game. It's like, why just stop there?
But then when you have, and I think for the most part, I can empathize with that. But then you have a guy who's just missed 2 field goals in a row, and here you have an opportunity to gift wrap one for him, kind of get his confidence back up. And you need 10 points. Either way, you need a touchdown and a field goal. So it's a hard decision. But I think looking back on it, I see the wisdom of maybe if we had just gone for the jugular on that and then saved the field goal for when we couldn't get in close.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Bailey had been struggling, so, you got to kick at least one. Well, you got to kick a field goal most likely, or, it could have been 2 touchdowns. That way we could have not had to rely on the touchdown, but that was a kick he was going to make, and you didn't know if he could make a longer one. So you get the touchdown there. Next opportunity, he's got to kick a 47-yarder to win, where he's already missed a couple field goals. So, that's sound logic there. I can't argue with that. I don't know. I was frustrated at the time. Looking back, I could see logic on both sides. But in the moment when I was watching that game, I was like, "Go for it! Come on, guys! This is their season right here. This is the playoffs right here. Go for it."
Thorny, something that stood out to me seems like when we had a missed opportunity, ISU totally capitalized on every one of those missed opportunities. Troy Anderson throws an interception when he had he had one guy to beat from my vantage point. That's one time I could watch the game.
I didn't see the play.
Oh, man. Well, he scrambles out. He's definitely has probably 20 yards worth of green in front of him. The backside safety is coming in to get him, but Troy can make one guy miss, and then he gets cute and throws like a touch pass to Sullivan, and then one of their safeties comes in and intercepts it. And they go down to score on that drive. Then Tyrell Thomas has a sure interception in his hands, goes off his hands. 2 plays later, they score. We missed that Curtis Amos pass, and I think that's the play for me. That is the play that haunted me the whole weekend. We missed the field goal, that 46-yard field goal after that. So many things that we just shot ourselves in the foot with that just, man, it's so frustrating because we've been in this land for so long. It's like marching through the desert, like 40 years in the desert. It feels like, when are we going to break out of this thing?
Yeah. I think Idaho State scored on the short field position we gave them after the most beautifully play called fake punt you'll ever see. That was like 1 yard overthrown. Oh, that's just our season. That just sums it up, doesn't it? 1 yard overthrown.
Yeah, that definitely sums up that game. Oh my gosh, it was just like, I don't know. Were you talking about the trick play that was 1 yard overthrown?
The fake punt,
the touchdown
punt.
Play? Yeah, the fake punt, and then the touchdown play to the tight end. It just off his fingertips. Curtis Amos, like 1 yard on, and then both the field goals were, one hit the upright and the other was pretty darn close, and it just, just inches away from every time.
Well, it's funny that you had talked about, like, you would think it'd be easier to kick in the dome as a kicker, but if you've done nothing but kick outside, you wonder if the ambiance and the atmosphere and the lighting is just weird inside a dome. Like, a dome kicker is really good in a dome, and they always kind of struggle outside. Is the inverse true? Like, if you're an outside kicker, do you go in the dome? Is it just a weird canned environment and you kind of gets in your head? I don't know. Just spitballing.
Yeah, maybe psychologically. I mean, that there's not, because when you're outside, there can be weird stuff like the wind, 40 different than what you feel. So there's like a lot of chaos variables outside where that's all controlled for in the dome. But like you say, maybe psychologically or something. I mean, Mason Crosby can do it. Anyone can do that.
Fun story about Mason Crosby. I saw him live against Montana State in 2006 when he tried to kick like a 63-yard field goal to tie or to bring Colorado within one score. He missed it, and we ended up winning that game. I was there. No big deal.
He was on that team?
He was on that team. That's why they attempted like a 60, I don't know what it was, 60 plus. They were down 10, and it was like fourth down, and they needed 2 scores, same situation, so they tried to kick this ridiculously long field goal with Mason Crosby.
Hey, Ryan, what happened the week after that?
We got ran over by Danny Woodhead, I believe.
We won't say what team he was on.
Nope. He played in the NFL. That's all we need to know.
That's all we know.
All right, well, getting back, let's just talk a little bit about what did you guys think of Troy Anderson's performance as a throwing quarterback? I mean, yeah, there was the interception, and I think that it's like you said, maybe he looked to pass when he had some opportunities to run, whereas in the past, you would have just ran those. In the past, I mean, like any time before this game. But overall, I think it was probably the best day he's had throwing the ball.
I don't think that's disputable, Thorny. I mean, it was the best day he's had throwing the ball.
I mean, he only threw for 45 yards less than Tanner Geller, and he had like a 30-yard touchdown pass dropped by Amos. So it would have been.
Yeah, I mean, not only was it his sharpest day, he looked very sharp. You know, he could have looked not great and still been his best game.
True.
But he looked very sharp in my opinion.
This was a noticeable jump, and you don't know if it was just because, Weber is going to make a lot of people look really bad. I think that's a classic case of things. Well, I don't know. We talked about it was as bad as it looked against Weber, but they're going to make a lot of people look bad. And I don't know if it's just because Idaho State's not that good, but he looked a lot more calm. He wasn't as geeked up as Choate would say. He made some really nice touch pass throws. He looked downfield more. He kept his eyes downfield. And I don't know. It was the biggest step I've seen him take as a quarterback.
Well, we provided him with some play calls that made a lot of sense. You know, getting Connor Sullivan in there. We completed some tight end drags over the middle. We had some quick slants. I mean, those are high percentage throws that made no sense that we weren't doing them.
Do you think Matt Miller's a friend of the pod? Do you think he was listening to us last week?
You know, I think he took my advice right there. Thank you, Matt Miller. I appreciate that. And dial up some more of those for us.
I was the one who proposed.
But you know
Yates.
what?
I want to Tucker Yates offensive backfield.
I want to talk about real quick on piggyback on that, how good Troy Anderson looked. Guys, we still scored 0 points from the second to the third quarter. We had 7 points in the first quarter and 10 in the second, or 10 in the fourth. We're still having this lull in the middle of the games that's been pretty common throughout this season.
Yeah. No, we had after the missed field goal, we went punt, turnover and downs, punt, halftime, came right out through an interception, punt, missed a field goal. I mean, we're moving the ball, but it still becomes a thing. Well, actually, no. You look at after the missed field goal, we had a 4-play, 23-yard drive that we ended up punting. Then we turned it over on down. I mean, it's just we have these lulls, and it's going to be a process for us. We're never going to be a team that's just going to move the ball consistently, just with their limited abilities. But it was by far our best time doing it. But that's the reason we're not going to be I mean, there's multiple reasons we're not going to be a playoff team, but just not being able to consistently move the ball, consistently score. We finally were able to score without just Troy Anderson ripping off a 60-yard touchdown run. But even still, he had that 40-yard touchdown run that was still one of our 2 touchdowns. It still looked better, but end result kind of the same, that it was still Troy Anderson being Troy Anderson.
Hey, how does that quarterback draw when we have number 10 in there, Travis Johnson? How does that work almost every time?
I don't know.
How are they not just stacking it up and expecting him to come right up the middle?
That's his play. That's he comes in, and that's what he's going to do.
Yeah. I'm amazed. I mean, the last time we ran it, it didn't work, but holy moly, we've just gone back to the well on that one over and over.
I feel like eventually they're going to set that up as like something. They're going to do something different out of that formation. But the reason it worked is because Johnson, he is fast and he explodes. He has a very fast first step, and he just sees the hole, and he's just all of a sudden he's 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, like in the blink of an eye. He's fast, and
I think it looks pretty cleared out when he does.
It's true.
I mean, you got to give him credit for sure, but I would expect people just hammering the line after having seen what we do there.
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't have a good answer on why it's so easily working, but like you said, someone's going to shut it down. But I feel like we're going to do something different out of it. Maybe hand it off on one of those fly sweeps, or maybe Johnson's going to do a little fake run up the middle and try and hit a streaking tight end over the middle. I don't know.
That's what I've been thinking. I keep thinking, I'm like, oh, he's going to pull it and, go over the top on this one. But it looked to me too, Shane, what you were talking about, like, why is it so open? I think we had that I don't know, but it reminded me of our running concepts. To me, it looked like we had more pulling guards on Saturday. I don't know if we got back to running power or not, but our running game looked different than it had in a couple games past.
Well, I think our O-line did a little bit better job of moving people off the line. I think that's one of the bigger things too. But I think we did move some more guys around. We did a little bit more pulls, and I feel like there are a bit bigger holes for the running backs to run through. Although Alphonse, as usual, creates half of its yards just by sheer determination. Man, he runs hard.
He's so good. He's so good.
He is fun to watch. Has such good balance and such good like lower body strength. It's pretty ridiculous.
And just the way he hits people at his size, it's like you can't believe what you're seeing.
No, 5'11", 190, just trucking people.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun to watch.
So Shane, prior to talking tonight, you had mentioned that you have some concerns with the program, and we told you to hold off on those. So why don't you lay at least one of those on us now?
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, if I'm going to lay one of them on you, two of them are kind of a pair, but I'll lay one of them on you. We've kind of danced around the pair, but I'll do the one. So here's the thing. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm or like there's a lot of optimism, kind of renewed optimism. People were pretty low after the Weber State game. I didn't get as low after the Weber State game, and I'm not as optimistic after this one. I liked what I saw, and I thought that Troy fulfilled his potential. That was about as good as I expected that he could come out and be. I thought he looked very sharp. He did throw one interception, no touchdowns, which, trade those and maybe it's a different game. But that's about as good as I think that he could look. The defense held ISU to its lowest point total against FCS opponents. They only allowed one more point than Cal did against ISU. It was
at
great
home.
defense.
ISU was at home too. Don't forget that part.
Right. The defense got turnovers, including 2 fumbles recovered, which we had done for the first time. Just great. But here's the thing. That looked like it was our best shot. And if that was our best shot, I think we're in a lot of trouble. I don't think we're anywhere near as good as I thought we could be.
No, I could see that side of things. That's kind of the inverse of how I felt in the Idaho game. I was like, this is Idaho's best shot. We're not playing very well, but we're going to beat them. That's probably how Idaho State fans felt watching us. It's like we aren't the kind of team that can afford to miss those opportunities and win. You can't have a drop touchdown pass. You can't miss a wide open fake punt. We don't get that many chances, and we don't seize them when they come. And that's why, and that's the theme of Choate. Unfortunately, Choate's teams is like they just don't seize the moment. The plays are there, the opportunities are there. We always put ourselves in a position to make the plays, which is a step up. But so far, we haven't made that play that's just going to win the game, that's going to turn the tide, that's going to set the tone. We have a problem with that. And you might be right. Like that could have been about as good as we can do. I think Troy can actually improve upon that game. I think he'll go back, look at the film, talk to who's the quarterback coach now. He'll talk to whoever's coaching the quarterbacks right now, himself probably, just coach himself. It's Troy Anderson. he'll go back and look at the film and like, wow, I had 20 yards of green in front of me. Like, I'm sure someone told him to keep his eyes downfield, look to pass first, but I think if he gets it together where he can see the opportunity to get even 5 or 6 yards, if there's nothing obvious, easy completion to make, I think he'll improve. But I don't know. You might be right. I also feel like Idaho State didn't play bad necessarily. Like when Eastern played us, like they were dropping balls, they were making weird plays all over the field. That could be partially because our secondary was crushing them, and I think they started getting alligator arms. But I feel like Idaho State, we just matched up well and held them in check. I think it was great having Jalen Cole on Michael Dean. I think it was great having Greg Filer on Mitch Geller. I think, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good statement. I feel like you might be right, but I feel like we could actually play better too.
And I should qualify it. I'm not saying that Troy can't get any better, but I felt like he was this good the whole time. And this finally was the day that was like, okay, we're actually seeing the passing we're hearing about.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. So I not to say he can't get better, but I don't think it's going to be next week. And I don't think it's going to be, frankly, the rest of this season that he's going to make enough of a step to make a significant difference in the games. But I
don't know. It's hard to say because that was, like you said, Matt Miller's 5-day prep. What about a whole nother week? What about a whole nother week practicing implementing what he wants to do? And he sees, all right, I watched this game. Now I can see what I want to do even more because I see what works. I see what doesn't. He's going to keep building upon that, where I think the reason that a change was made was because nothing was changing. We just kept doing the same damn thing and it was not working. But I think Miller might be a little bit more adaptive, and I think that might suit us better down the road.
Well, I think the game prep was really good. I think that was really important in us looking better. But I think the biggest thing was Troy's psychology and just keeping him, like Cho likes to talk about, the performance anxiety curve, kind of keeping him below that way geeked up, ripping every shot or whatever. And I think that he brought himself down the way that I thought he's needed to. In that just his psychology, just not being too geeked up. But then I don't see that aspect improving. But like you said, that's just speculation, and I really hope that I'm wrong. But that's how I feel about it right now. But like you said, if Matt Miller gets more time to prepare and all that, maybe we see even bigger improvements, at least on that front, and maybe that makes up for any. Anything that Troy can't necessarily do better right away.
What are your thoughts, Ryan? We just sat there and talked, and you're just sitting there like probably thinking of like, I want to say something.
Well, you took my point, Thorny, when you talked about Miller's preparation. I kept thinking about that was Miller's first go at it. I'm pretty sure that his playbook's going to expand, and they're going to look at this game and run some of the stuff that was successful, but, allow some new formations and, mask it. But also, I think this is a big step for Troy and just his confidence. Me, I've not been on the Troy bandwagon as a quarterback all year. And, this was by far the best he's looked. I do think he can get better because I think he could get more comfortable in what Matt wants him to do. But what I think it really comes down to is I think we need guys on the field to say we just need to get this done, and just believe in that and to get over this hump and quit shooting ourselves in the foot, proverbially in these situations. And Troy could be that guy. He could just say, you know what, guys, get on my back. I'm going to take us to this. And I think he has that ability, and I want to see that come out in him.
Yeah, and no, you and Shane, you make a good point, and I can't disagree with you. I'm just wishful that it's not true, but you might be right. Like 425 yards, that might be about the most yards we can get out of the offense we currently run. I just feel like we might be able to finish some drives better and make a few more sustained drives. But I mean, we might be getting pretty close to peaking as an offensive unit for sure. I just don't know how much better we can get.
And I hope you're right. And I hope you guys are right too. I'm just one of my concerns that I've got kind of mulling around the back of my head.
No, it's a valid concern. We're not pretty, and I don't know if we can get any prettier.
See, I disagree. See, if you say that's when we're going to peak, the day we implement a new offense, then you've given us no time to grow. So I don't agree with that.
All right.
At all. So I think we can get better. Markedly, I'm not certain, but like you said, Ryan, I think we can finish drives a little more. I think what we're going to get better at is procedural stuff. And so we don't, like, we have these trick plays that have been called back for touchdowns a couple times.
Coulter said he counted like 4 on the year, I think, of
and like
play touchdowns that were called back.
And he was saying about that, he's like, if those were not called back, we're talking about the Bobcats in a different light, So, I mean, those kind of plays matter. So.
Well, I got a couple things that I want to see us do. Mainly, I want Kevin Cassis to get the ball more. Did you see those little juke moves he made on the sideline? Like, that guy just wants it. He wants the ball. He wants to make plays. He can make plays. If we're going to throw, we never seem to throw 50-50 balls. Like, every other Big Sky team sees a guy on a one-on-one matchup. They like the matchup. They just chuck the ball up. Why don't we do that? Troy Anderson will get the ball in the vicinity. Let Cassis make that play.
It is tough with his height, though, because I think a lot of these guys are working with 6'4" guys.
Yeah. Big Sky corners are like 5'8". we have a couple ourselves. So, I mean, that's just kind of what you get in the Big Sky. And it's not necessarily about height. I mean, otherwise, how does Michael Dean win 50-50 balls? He does. He's 5'6".
He's crafty.
I mean, are they throwing him as low as they can?
I don't know. There's no way a 5'6" guy should be ever winning a contested ball, but he does. And I don't know. I just want to see Kevin Cassis get the opportunity to win those balls, just to get more targets. Like, he put in so much work in the offseason. It's so noticeable, and he's so just chomping at the bit to get this thing going. So that's one of my keys. I want to see Cassis with the ball more. And I want to keep getting Johnson involved more, because that was finally a game where he looked like the pure football player athlete that he is. He just kind of got some confidence. I know it's a small step, but he might be the best athlete on the field. And that's including Troy Anderson. He's a pure athlete. He just isn't quite the football player, but he can be, I think. You just get that guy the ball, find creative ways to do what he's comfortable doing. I like seeing Johnson some more. I think he's going to be a key component coming down the stretch.
Well, we'll see what he can do if he can stay healthy. That's my biggest concern. But yeah, he did look really fluid in the game.
So we went off on a tangent there. Sorry about that. You had a couple other things there, Shane? We're kind of going on this little route here.
Oh yeah. 2 more concerns.
Let's keep the concerns going.
So these are actually things that have been in the back of my mind since pretty much the whole Choate tenure, but maybe starting to really intensify with last year's game against South Dakota State. We consistently, since the very first game of his tenure, we have had very close losses against very good opponents. And it always, the narrative always seems to sound like we're getting better. We're going from like losing big to losing small and then winning small. That's not what I see. We lost by 3 points in a 17-20 football game against an FBS opponent. Yeah, they were transitioning, but we lost against Idaho at Idaho by 3 points in his very first game.
That was a bowl team.
Yeah, that year they went.
One of the few Idaho
right?
bowl teams.
Yeah.
It's one of the few games that Tyler Brugman came to play, though, too.
True.
So that's kind of an anomaly right there.
But yeah, anyway, continue.
Sure. Well, but as you track through, you continue to see these, and you see South Dakota State was an incredibly good team, a couple NFL players on the team, and Taryn Christian, who's probably the best quarterback this year. Maybe he wasn't last year, but he's pretty darn good. And we lost by what, 3 points, guys? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or what?
Yeah, I don't remember, but yeah, somewhere 3 or 4.
It was a close loss, and it was ours to lose. Nice trick play that they came out with, and good for them. I don't want to take that away from them, but that was a very good team. That was an outmatched opponent that we came up and we fought with them blow for blow, but we still came up short. And that is starting to look like not just like a trend that's beginning to happen, but it's starting to look like that's just the character of these teams. I don't want to believe that, but it sure seems that way.
So I think I have some thoughts on that. I think this year, I think it's because of the whole quarterback debacle that we've been put into that's been continuing. I think if I think if Rovig wouldn't have gotten hurt, we would have been probably 2 more wins at this point of the season, and we'd be talking completely different. I think last year was that starting to, as you put it, and as Cho puts it, lose close, win small. I think this year we were supposed to be that win small, kind of win big sometimes. But when we had to put Troy into the mix and then really depend on him even with his weaknesses as a passer, and then the perfect storm of the offensive play calling being lackluster. It's just been kind of a perfect storm of where we are today. So it seems like we've been kind of like almost like this has made us almost like into like a holding pattern rather than progressing. I don't feel like we're necessarily regressing. It's just been kind of a weird mixture of quarterback play and bad luck that has kept us here.
No, you're right. I mean, you think about that too, because this is, as much as Chris Murray had his limitations, I don't know if anyone can say at this point that we wouldn't be a better team with Chris Murray in his 3rd year starting at the helm this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think we would be.
So it's kind of hard that you had to kind of reset it so hard, and not just like a guy who was a backup who could come in and kind of carry the momentum, but you had to completely revamp everything and reset to a quarterback who should be playing linebacker. And I think that's a bigger step than anybody realized it might be. I think it's kind of the board doesn't talk too much about Murray anymore, but I think that was a much bigger loss than people were thinking. Some people, I might be in that camp as well. We're thinking, all right, now we can get a quarterback in here who can throw the ball a bit better. as we're seeing now, the grass is not necessarily always greener.
Guys, we're a quarterback away from this, man. That's the plain, simple truth. And it's simple as that. Once we get our quarterback, and if we can maintain our level of defense, this is going to be going.
We could have ran the same offense we had last year, except we would have had Chris Murray with his wizardry and the triple option, and Troy Anderson back there, and then Isaiah Alphonse on top of that.
Whew.
What I will say though is that this is another part of the story is if the ball bounces this way in that game, we get that score, we win that game. We're 8 points away from being an 8-win team last year, right? Whatever it was, something crazy like that. But there's always a thing, right? There's always a thing, and there's always. And I mean, we're not the first team to struggle with quarterbacks. And that's not to say, I do think that we've had way more than our fair share of that. But if you look back to the Grizz team, it might have been the 2016 team, they lost one of their quarterbacks, then they lost the other one, and then they looked great with the guy that I think it was the guy that had been at Idaho at some point. Do you guys know the guy I'm talking about?
Chad Chalich, maybe?
Chalich, yeah. They got down to Chalich, or maybe they got from Chalich down to Gustafson or whatever. But in any case, there was some injury, and they came out. The guy was lights out. They go down. Reese Phillips last year, early in the season, has just a horrific injury, and Jensen comes out, and he's insanely good. And it's like, what? Okay, what is the deal? Like, So you get what I'm getting at, like with quarterbacks, and someone comes out and they're a great passer, and it is really helpful for the team.
Agree, but you have to look at each scenario differently. Like Montana under Bob Stitt was just set up. Like I feel like most guys who could throw passes in high school could come in and succeed in an offense geared that does nothing but let quarterbacks succeed. That's a kind of a different thing. Plus, if you're a quarterback, you're excited to go play there. So they probably have a nice stable of guys who had big numbers in high school who could just step in and do that. But on the flip side, go look at Northern Arizona. They lose Case Cookus, and they're garbage. They're hot garbage without Cookus.
Yeah, although I thought they did pretty well against Eastern when he went out, because he went out pretty early in that game, and they still kept with him pretty well. But the defense did a great job holding him to 32 points or something like that. But for the most part, they've had a very difficult time scoring any points whatsoever.
I mean, if you're a good program, like we had talked about when you were on our previous episode, like a program, you overcome these things. You don't have your guy come out and you just, oh crap, we're screwed. Well, let's see if we can't win a few ball games with our linebacker at quarterback. It's like you got to be set up a little bit better than that. And it's like we talked about this last episode, a weird series of things that led to this being here. But that's not to say that Choate is without blame. It's just a weird thing, and this is how we ended up. And I feel more confident that we'll look better next year with some quarterbacks. But I'm also, like you said, tired of talking about next year. I'm tired of talking about the what ifs. I feel like I'm just sick of losing these kinds of games like we just did, like just games where we had an opportunity to win the game and we just can't make that play. We just consistently cannot make that play. And part of that is like the penalties, like that last drive where we got all the way down like the 5-yard line, had like 2 penalties in a row, got way backed up, and then missed a field goal. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that kind of stuff is becoming kind of a theme, and I don't know what to do about it. I don't even know what the root of the problem is, but that's just at some point you are who you are.
That actually leads me into my other concern. That is my other concern. Critical errors. From the very beginning, we've just made critical errors. It's not a new thing this year. I don't know if you guys remember what game was that? It was a home game, and we were moving the ball so well, and Chris Murray just fumbles the exchange on a read option, and we lose the ball, and that loses us the game. We were down in the red zone. Do you guys remember which game that was?
Was that Eastern Washington last year?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Eastern Washington. And it was just like, of all the times that you could have a turnover, like that is literally the worst possible time and place to have a turnover. And it just seems like it's been, I mean, this last game, insane for that, because we only had 45 yards in penalties, but they were just at the most possible inopportune times. We had 3 more yards in penalties than ISU had, but they were just at such inopportune times. It felt like, 100 yards.
And it comes back to the point we had been talking about earlier, is we aren't the kind of team that can overcome this kind of stuff. Eastern Washington can get 2 holding calls, be 1st and 30, and they'll still convert it because they have such a dynamic offense. They can overcome that kind of stuff. If we get like 1 5-yard penalty, we're toast. And so if that's your offense, we can't continue to make procedural penalties like false starts or just easy day one stuff. We can't be doing that.
And you can't do them when you're in field goal range and the penalty takes you out of it.
No, it's becoming Ryan and I've talked about this in past episodes. Like, is this a theme of a Choate-led team where we just keep missing opportunities? I feel like it's all we talk about is all these opportunities that we missed.
Yeah. And these critical errors, what I think it comes from, and I'm hoping this, but I think it's an inattention to detail on offense. I think we have a lot of detail going on defense, but on offense, I think when you have so many different errors like that, it's because you haven't paid close attention to all the little things that you're doing. When you run the play that Troy scored a touchdown on and it gets pulled back for a chop block, he probably has, done what could be called a chop block once or twice before in practice, but it didn't get coached up, or I don't know exactly what it is, but I think if you focus on details, you don't make those errors like that.
Choate always says you are what you focus on.
Yeah, there you go.
Apparently that's not what we focus on. I wonder what we do focus on.
Defense.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
Choate is.
I think we've got great attention to detail on defense. I mean, that was the difference between the 2015 and 2016 defense. The same people, just more focused on attention to detail.
It's crazy how much better that defense was, considering it was much of the same guys / a whole bunch of like new freshmen and sophomore guys that hadn't even seen the field. It's like night and day. Isn't that the year that we lost like 5 defensive linemen before the season even started? And that's why we were playing like Ferreter and Marks and all those true freshmen, because we were
true.
And Woody Brandon
man,
was converted to defensive end from tight end, right? Wasn't that the year that happened?
Oh man, yeah, I don't even remember all the changes.
But
that they made,
the point is, like, coaching can mask. Like, if you're a well-coached team, you can take a guy who is an average player and he is a solid. He can perform at a high level, and maybe that's another thing we need to be concerned with. Do you think Choate's teams, I guess, player development, you see guys just starting off as just a little dinky walk-on, becoming an All-American? Is that happen in Choate's culture?
You know, I think on defense, we're seeing people get coached up really well. And the other thing that I think Coach Choate does really well is he gets people. He's able to bring in people that you're like, how did he get that person? He brought in Bob Cole, which I think was a huge get. I mean, clearly we moved on, but I think that was a huge get. A guy that's coached up Heisman candidates, and he came into.
I was pretty excited when we hired him.
He did nothing for us.
No, but it seemed like she was saying, it just seemed like a wow. Like, this is a pretty star power hire at the time.
Doesn't matter if it doesn't produce, though.
Well, sure, and it's possible that you can miss on a couple of them, but if you're able to get those guys, you're going to hit on one of them. He hit on Gregorak, huge. I mean, I think that was a huge get, and I mean, pulled him from the Grizz. That's impressive. And you get a guy like Bauman, and that's a big get. You know, even if he doesn't pan out, the fact that you were able to get him to come to your school over all the other people that were courting him, that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's true. We do recruit well. And to your point there, Shane, I do think you're spot on. We do need to pay more focus to our offense and have more, what's the word I'm looking for? Intentionality to keeping that sharp. And I think that's where Choate's next step is in his just coaching profession, is relinquishing his defensive minded vision of offense and trusting his offense to, I don't know if that means trusting Matt Miller now. And I think when you listen to him, he says, okay, I just got to let Matt Miller be Matt Miller. But if we're making an offensive change in the off season, you know, I think Choate really needs to allow someone to kind of like, you know, when Tim Cramsey came on, Tim Cramsey was going to run Tim Cramsey's offense. I think we need some guy that's going to do that, who has an articulated vision that matches Choate's vision, but sees it through a different lens than he sees it, and can do it better than Choate can.
And I'm confident that Choate can get that guy. And when he said that Matt Miller was coming in, he says he's acting offensive coordinator. He didn't say he's the offensive coordinator. He said acting. And I think that's a little bit of a hint that the search is on. We're going to find the guy and get him here, and he's going to be a great offensive coordinator, much like Ty Gregory.
Well, unless Matt Miller starts blowing the doors, you know, off this whole thing. But again, to me, I think this whole season seems like a wash with Troy Anderson at our quarterback, because we're just obviously waiting for Bowman to get, you know, I don't know what we're waiting for. I would have put him in long before, but that's truly our future, or, you know, Beltran or one of those guys. But so I think our offense will look completely different next year. I think it's going to look more like it did when we ran the Wagner game, when we were much more balanced, but who knows?
Curveball. What if Murray comes back?
So Murray comes back. I think he's going to have to be a walk-on. I don't know where I read that. Maybe that was just conjecture, but he's going to have to earn his position for sure.
Well, regardless, I mean, it's kind of a similar path a little bit to what Brad Daly did. Left school, had to like walk his way back on. Turned out pretty good. I'm just curious, like if he comes in, clearly he's going to be in competition. If he wins the job, we're running the same offense that we've been running. So I don't know, just a curveball, just a thought.
So guys, we're running close on the clock here to about an hour. So let's skip forward to Cal Poly. Pretty boring. Same stuff. Joe Prothro, like 55-year-old man coming in, been there forever.
His son's a walk-on freshman.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's Cal Poly. Like, it's rinse repeat. So, triple option. They're pretty good at it. It's going to be a hard-nosed game. Kind of wish we had them earlier on this season when we were all more a little healthy. But, yeah.
I don't know. I think we match up okay with Poly. I think we can contain the run game because I think we can for the first time in a long time, we can put our defensive backs on an island. So I think we'll be able to limit their big plays from their quarterback who only throws like 5 passes a game, but they're like 30 yards completion because they just catch you off and hit you over the top for a big play. But I think we can limit that. So I don't know. I feel like we're going to match up pretty well with them. If we can contain Prothero, we contain Cal Poly. If he gets 30 rushes for 250 yards, we're in trouble.
For sure.
Yeah, here's what I don't think it is. I don't think it's a gimme.
No, absolutely not.
I think we can definitely do this, but by no means are Cal Poly or Northern Colorado a gimme. I think I told you guys earlier in the season, Northern Colorado is going to come up and smack somebody that wasn't paying attention, and boy, they come out of nowhere. And I think Poly has that potential too, and it just depends on the day. But we can do it.
That's just the weirdness of the Big Sky. There's always a team that has no business winning a game that like snake bites one of those, not the top tier team necessarily, but one of those teams like really pushing for the playoffs, and then they lose to the 0-8 team in the conference and ruin their whole playoff chances. That happens like every year. And let's not be that team. But Poly can't score, so that benefit. I mean, yeah, they put up a few points recently, but they're still 12th in the league in scoring offense. So I think for once our 20-point, 28-point maximum output on offense is going to be enough to win the game, but we're going to have limited opportunities. And what does that mean? That's not good for us because we can't always capitalize on those opportunities. So we're going to have to continue to work on that, continue to sustain drives, and we can beat them. But like you said, it's by no means a gimme. We're going to have to, it's kind of a bummer that Hadley and Cano are going to be out indefinitely. So we're going to have some guys step up in the linebacker core. Sounds like Hardy might get some time this week. He's been kind of turning it on special teams, as Choate says. Like once you start seeing a guy doing that, like he might be getting ready to get in the game. I think someone's gonna have to step up because we're gonna have Jobman, Collins, and who's the other starter? Is it Chapman gonna be working back in maybe a little bit?
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be a combination of Chapman and Hardy, and whoever plays better at the time just ride the hot hand, so to speak. So I don't know. What kind of defense do you think that you play against Cal Poly? I mean, this is Choate hasn't played them. I was surprised to hear that stat, but no, Choate hasn't played Cal Poly.
Well, Greg Rack has, and he hasn't had great success against
Don't say that.
And I know, and Kennesaw was kind of although they were a really great team. But
Kennesaw is infinitely better than Cal Poly.
Yeah.
Even the good Cal Poly team of a couple years ago, Kennesaw State last year was a better team than that. But
yeah, which was really surprising.
Yeah,
but
Kennesaw came out of nowhere, and they're really good this year. I think they're number 2 in the polls right now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So here's a good defense for Cal Poly. Keep sustained drives on offense. Keep them off the field.
Don't let Joe Prothro get the ball.
Yeah.
That's like one of those offenses that the best way is just to keep the ball out of their hands. Got to win the time of possession. Is a weird thing in the Big Sky because there's some teams that just score so fast that have bad time of possession but still beat you by 30. This is a game we have to win, the time of possession, because that's Cal Poly's game too, time of possession. So we got to win that one.
Any bold predictions for the upcoming week or next week from
Well,
either of you?
I got to pat myself on the back first. I predicted we recover our first fumble of the year against Idaho State. Did it. So I think
times 2.
This is kind of a weird, bold prediction because it's kind of lame. I think Troy Anderson throws a touchdown pass.
Oh, man. That's sad that's bold,
I know,
but it is.
That's the state of – I think he's only thrown one all year, right? He threw that one slant to Cassis against Portland State. Is that his only touchdown pass? So regardless, even if he has 2, it's still a bold prediction to say he'll throw a touchdown pass. So that's what I'm going with. Touchdown pass, Troy.
Nice.
What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I'll say Tristan Bailey goes 100% on field goals and PATs this week.
Okay. My bold prediction is more seasonal. I think we do have a winning season for the first time in 3 years.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, we got not any easy games left, but 3 right now look like they're winnable games. We got Pauley and Northern Colorado at home, which you love, and the Grizz are just not good right now. So I'm not saying that they won't get it figured out, and it's going to be always hard to win in Missoula, but they're not looking real good right now. And I imagine like Bryce Stirk and Tyrone Fontenot just got been licking their chops going against that offensive line. But
I think our strength matches up with well with their weakness.
I do. So I do think we can end up with a winning record. I don't know if that's going to satisfy everybody, but satisfied might be the wrong word for me, but I would be complacent enough like, all right, that's a 1 game improvement for 4-7, 5-6, up to 6-5, maybe even hopefully 7-4. I mean, that's considering what we've been dealing with would be, I think that'd be a pretty decent season.
Do you think by the end of the year we'll have one of those defining moments that we've been, kind of dancing around? I think that was Shane's kind of one of his concerns, kind of in a nutshell, that we can't get past these moments. Do you think we're going to overcome?
I don't know if we get there this year. I kind of think it's not a defining moment if you go from losing by 3 to winning by 1 or 2 or 3.
No,
it's like a small incremental improvement. I mean, if it was against South Dakota State or Eastern or something, maybe it would be. But
if it's like a comeback or something, like if we would have came back and won last week, that would have been a defining moment for us, because that's not something we've done. But
it's not necessarily a 3-point win. It's how you get there. It's some big play somebody made. Like we were down by 2 and there's like an interception this is something that turns the whole tide. Like we talked about on the Weber State podcast, or I guess the one leading up to it, about that goal line stand against Weber State in like 2009 or whatever. Like that's kind of, we need something kind of like that. We just need, and we've had so many opportunities. It's like the law of averages says we're going to get one, doesn't it? Like you can't keep overthrowing a fake punt by off the fingertips your entire coaching career, can you?
As long as you stop paying, or as long as you never start paying attention to detail, then you can keep doing that.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
All right. Well, so the last thing we were going to talk about today was some over-unders, and I have one for us for next week. Over-under, fellas, 14 points between the second and third quarters that we score.
Under.
Under.
I hate to say it. How about you?
Ooh, this was a good one. That's why I thought of it.
Don't break your arm patting yourself on the back.
You know what? I'm going to go over. I think we're going to see some more strides with Miller's offense, and so I'm going to say we're going to get out of that slump. We're going to hit the middle of the game hard. I'm going to say we go 17 points over.
Nice. I'm not saying that will look bad by any means. I'm just saying this is going to be one of those games that there's a lot of running, and it's going to take time to get any points.
Good point.
In fact, my over/under is an hour 50 on game duration.
I don't know enough about game duration to know if that's good or bad.
Yeah, me either. Educate us, Shane.
So the average.
Give me an average.
The average Division I football game lasts 3.5 hours.
You might be right. it just depends how many penalties there are, because there's not going to be a hell of a lot of stoppages from any other reason.
Right.
I'll go under.
You think it's going to be a fast game?
Fast, yeah. Just running, nonstop running. Clock's never going to stop. No one's ever going to go out of bounds.
Right.
You said an hour 50?
Yeah, just because you're not going to get stoppage from passes that get dropped or anything, I mean,
no TV timeouts, not Root Sports.
Right, it's not a Root Sports game. I checked that before I set that over under.
Ooh, I'll go over.
Yeah, I think hour 50 is pretty aggressive. It might be slightly over, but I think it's.
We need to get some sort of like Apple Pay fund going for all these over and unders with each other. But which leads me into mine. Joe Prothro, over under 150 yards rushing.
Under.
I think under. Okay. I thought that was
I just believe in our defense. I think that's a good one because Joe Prothro is so good, so prolific, but our defense has been so good against these guys that usually rip them for 2 or whatever.
Fair enough. I'm going to go under as well. I just thought 150 was a decent number, but apparently it's a high. So.
No, I think it's fair because Joe Prothro really is that good. But I really have a lot of confidence in our run defense.
All right.
Hey, Ryan, before we go, tell them how we can find us.
We are on the Twitter at RRCatCast. It's not RNR. It's just RRCatCast.
We're up to 21 followers. I saw that yesterday.
Man,
up from
we are
4 to 21, making some progress.
That's the definition of viral, as far as I'm concerned. More like viral, like a flu. But hey.
Oh, we do have some guests coming up scheduled for Cat Grizz. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but I secured us we'll just call him an OG from the past.
Yeah, you guys are going to want to listen into that episode. So
you're trying to get a Grizz guy on, aren't you?
I was thinking about reaching out to maybe somebody over on eGrizz. I like Brent Wahlberg. He does a pretty good job over there. And he does the Montana Mint podcast now. So I was wondering if you might want to get on and talk some game preview with us. But I haven't reached out to him yet. If you're listening, Brent, holla.
Yeah. We have, and like Shane is one of our guests today. If any of you guys want to come or gals want to come on, just give us a shout out on Bobcat Nation, or you can get a hold of us as well on Twitter. That'd be fun.
Sounds good. Well, Shane, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Great having you back on. We got to end the segment with the Go Cats. I think that's usually how I end it anyway, because Go Cats, that's why.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.